Eric and I, of course, we write the Fantasy Baseball Almanac. A lot of that stuff fuels what we're talking about here. We keep things current. Quick plug for the show. Actually, let me do this first. We're going to talk AL East today, the whole division. We go alphabetical. So this installment is all about Baltimore. And for our YouTube audience, we break out each team by its own installment. So now I will say, Eric and I co-write the Fantasy Baseball Almanac. It drives a lot of stuff. Quick plug for the Fantasy Baseball Almanac. We keep it current. It is as current as the bets trade. You're not going to find any other publication out there because most of those publications are written in December and then published in January. We have the bets information available. It's on Amazon.com. You can find it there. We also are going to be updating the book again soon. So sometime soon after this episode drops, we're actually going to have more updates. You can check it out. We have the show notes below. Amazon.com, once again, is where you can get it. And we also give free updates throughout the season. So if you buy the book, you get free updates. There's a promo code in there. You get a line directly to me and Eric. But let's talk about Eric. If there is enough to talk about, and I say this with love and with disappointment because I am an Orioles fan, talk about cupboards being bare. There is just not a lot here. You have Mancini, you have Nunez, and you have Bundy. And that's really those are the only players that made our rankings. Oh, this is depressing. Tell me it's not as bad as I think it is going to be this season, Eric. Can you do that?
Yeah. You remember last time we were talking when we got into the San Francisco Giants, and I kind of sounded like that husband being asked to judge the outfit of his wife that he really didn't like.
I kept saying, can you find anything? You were like, ooh, yeah. When your girlfriend or your wife says, do I look fat in this dress? And you're not prepared for the question, you got to dance. And that's what you are. You're like hot feet on a blacktop highway, right? So you're just dancing around. Like one of those lizards in the desert.
I will say, big fan of Trey Mancini, like what he can bring to the table. He'd probably bring a lot more if there were people getting on in front of him.
Yeah.
But Nunez is a solid bat. I think Austin Hayes is gonna take a big step forward this year, so he might be an interesting late round sleeper pick for you. But yeah, outside of those three guys, I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I'm thinking if you're in an AL only format, I mean, maybe you get some more people on your roster. But if you have the whole MLB and you're in a redraft league year to year, outside of Mancini, I mean, and Nunez is okay too. But even the pitching, concerns me because they're not going to get a lot of wins. And I want pitchers that if they're having a tough day, they have an offense behind them that can get them wins because. I mean, you've seen it. I mean, and I've lived this as an Orioles fan, right? It hurts me to say it with how bad they are. I've seen it. Like, pitchers will be in this organization, then they'll leave, and then they'll be Cy Young winners. I mean, there's just something about this organization that is maddening. It is just maddening, and it's tough, man. Chris Davis got all the money, and he's not doing well. But I mean, I guess you had to sign him. Youth, at least now they're getting kind of into Latin America. For years they've been avoiding it as kind of you filled us in on last year, Eric. I mean, is there any hope? I let me say this. I did hear that their farm system was up to like 10th or 12th rated, at least in terms of one person's rankings. It might have been an Orioles fan. I don't know. But, I mean, do they have anybody coming in that is remotely exciting?
Actually, yeah. There's two... You got two young guys coming up that should be debuting probably this year that I think are going to be pretty solid. Ryan Mountcastle, I think, is going to be a really good, solid contributor there. He's a good hitter. He's got 25 homer pop. Probably might be able to build on that a little bit as he gets a little older and gets more into competition. He'll probably settle in at third base, but he can play shortstop. So yeah, I mean, he should debut at some point this year. Really just depends on, how interested the Orioles are in winning as opposed to tanking. Because he'll definitely help them. I mean, I think right now he could come up and probably, be among the better hitters on the team. And then use Neil Diaz. I'm not sure how you say his first name, to be honest with you, but they got him in that Manny Machado trade, and he's got some raw power that hasn't quite translated yet. But it will. He looks like a good hitter. He's got a little more work to go, but he should start the year in AAA. If things go well, you could see him as well. But yeah, he's not too far off being in AAA is where he's most likely going to be. So yeah, I think those two guys offer a glimmer of the future. The rest seems to be a little further down the line. Um, so yeah, I mean, and I like John Means. Let me go back to the rotation because I know you mentioned that as well.
Hmm.
Means is a nice piece. I don't think he's going to come out here and be old school Clayton Kershaw. He's not going to be Max Scherzer, but he's going to be, he's definitely their top guy, and he's going to be a solid middle rotation type guy for you. And yeah, he's not going to get a lot of the wins, but he should be able to kind of replicate what we saw last year from him.
Yeah, and I think this organization. To me, it's always been about the pitching for the last few years, right? When they were able to cobble together enough starters, and even when they made kind of the ALCS runs a few years ago, it was their bullpen, right? They had Britton, they had for some reason the name's escaping me, the really good middle reliever guy. He was I cannot think of the name for crying out loud now, but the big guy, he went on to the Yankees after that. I mean, they had really nice bullpen work, and they had enough offense because back then I think they had another name escaping me right now. The Mariner, I think he might even be on the Twins now. He's like 38 years old. He helped me out with the DH guy.
Cruz?
Who?
Not Cruz.
Yeah.
He was there.
Nelson Cruz they had way back
Not
when.
Nelson.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm talking about. When they had that, so they had enough offense to kind of spur them
Yeah.
forward. They had Machado, obviously, but the cupboard's bare again, and it always goes back to the rotation. And I'm a Redskins fan, or I grew up a Redskins fan anyway. I wouldn't call myself just because Dan Snyder's so evil. I can't call myself a Redskins fan anymore. But it's like the Orioles rotation similar to the Washington Redskins at quarterback, where they can't get out of their own way. You had the famous Kirk Cousins bungled quarterback situation. You have them drafting Haskins, who takes a selfie instead of taking a snap to win the game. I mean, you look back. Brad Johnson leaves the team, wins the Super Bowl with Tampa Bay. Meanwhile, they actually traded for Brad Johnson when they had reasonable quarterbacks. Trent Green moves on to St. Louis back then, and then of course has a nice career with Kansas City. Like the Redskins have talent, but then the talent goes elsewhere and does well. And it's the same thing with the Orioles. So it's like maybe I'm the bad luck here. So I apologize, Orioles fans, but I feel your pain. But I think that can probably be enough of them from the fantasy perspective. Eric, as we do every week with these teams, or for every team, high and low, what do you think the floor and the ceiling is in terms of division finish here? I know what the floor is; it's last place. So why don't you tell me what the ceiling is for this team this year?
I think the ceiling for them, I think it has more to do with the team itself as opposed to their placement in the standings. For a team like this, I wouldn't look at, okay, maybe they can get to fourth place as a silver lining. For them, it's, can they get Mountcastle and Diaz up? Can they show something and show that there's hope for next year and for going forward? So for them, the ceiling is more about, can these guys come up? Can Renato Nunez take a step forward? I think so. Can Mancini continue to be a middle of the order threat? Absolutely. Can Hayes step up and really kind of break out? Can these guys come up and make this team look like, okay, we have something going next year once we get guys like Davis off the books, Cobb off the books? Maybe we can use our money a little more wisely
Mm.
and build someone that can contend at least for a wild card in the next couple of years. So I think for them, it's more about, can that happen? And I think it's definitely possible. They need a
Mm.
lot to happen, but it's not, all doom and gloom for Baltimore as far as the future.
Well, that's
This year it's going to be a rough year, unfortunately. I just don't see them, short of maybe pulling themselves into fourth place. If a lot of things break right, I don't see a lot of the ray of sunshine for
mm.
positioning, which I think even as Orioles fans should look at this year. You're better off letting it go with the last place
Yeah,
and going
right.
for the first pick. You've got your first overall pick last year, Adley Rushman, who looks to be, looks like he's a star coming up in a couple of years, and you want to add to that stable.
Yeah.
So for them, the best case scenario really is to kind of bottom out again, see some silver linings and some bright spots from these young guys coming up, and really kind of build for a few years out.
Yep. Agreed. Agreed there. No arguments.